What is going on, everybody? Welcome to game week 10 of GOALAZO here on FSI. I am Alex Hooper. Gonna bring you a couple more GPP tips, kind of my angle on this game week, which is full of favorites. So a lot of options to go with. Before we get started, of course, if you could please like the video, if you like everything that we bring to you, if you could subscribe to FSI, always bringing you great soccer content and great content from other sports. Also leave a comment if you see anything, if you want to interact, and also follow me on Twitter at Lex Hooper, and we can talk soccer. I always dig it. All right, so let's get into week number 10. All right, last week, this little cheat sheet did not show up. If it did not, I am sorry. I'm just going to read you the odds. Actually, I'll pull up the odds. How about that? And then there's a calculator. And if you can see this, you can see it. It's not much different, except I have these XG odds. All right. So the biggest favorite on the slate is Man City. And they're a big favorite over Crystal Palace with the highest total as well. City minus 736, Palace plus 1776. Go America. The over on 3.25 at minus 120. Not only is that the highest total, that is the highest amount of juice on any total one way or the other. So Vegas likes City to dominate. All right, second biggest favorite, as I do some maths really quick. Liverpool over Brighton, minus 337 on the road. Brighton plus 808. Under 3. Minus 115. Really quick, I said I would read these just in case this didn't actually come up. So I did the XG figures again. City is at 5.6. That's XG produced per 90 plus what their opposition Palace allows per 90. So that's 5.6 for City. Palace 2.81. That is the lowest on the slate, believe it or not. Best defense in the league. And not a powerful offense. For Liverpool at Brighton, Liverpool actually has the highest XG on the entire slate, 7.05. Brighton at 3.64. That comes in about middle of the table, fourth. Yeah, fourth on the slate. And this is just like scoring environment. It's like chances to score, or I mean, amount of goal chances created per 90. So Liverpool, despite being the second biggest favorite, has quite a sizable X goal lead. And depending on how you view that, I mean, it's not saying, that they're going to score 7 goals. It's pretty confident. Really, I think that could go off. I think that game could go off. Brighton's good, but so we'll talk about that a little bit. So Chelsea at home, the only home negative money favorite, minus 269. Newcastle plus 747. 5.96 XG for Chelsea. That's higher than City. And Newcastle is 3.51. That is the second lowest behind Palace. All right, so a couple more home favorites. Southampton plus 125. Watford plus 219. Southampton with a 5.32 XG. Watford 4.47. Southampton comes in just behind City, actually, just because Watford's defense has been so bad. The over on that one, over 2.5, is minus 117. And then finally, Brentford at home, a favorite, plus 152 against Burnley, plus 182. Brentford 4.92 XG, or only 3.6. Obviously, the margins aren't huge on these numbers, so they're not here to really guide a ton. But what this does tell me is that as far as GPPs go, I don't think Liverpool stacks are going to be out there a whole lot, because Brighton is, I mean, they were top 5 on the table, and they've fallen a little bit, I believe. Let's take a look at the old table through 9 games. How about that? Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Brighton's still in the top 5. So people are going to look at this game and say, yeah, Liverpool's favorite, but Brighton's been running well. I think for GPPs, it makes a lot of sense to stack Liverpool. They've just put up a ton. ton of goal scoring opportunities and good ones at that. Brighton has given up enough to, kind of make that number what it is. So considerably higher than a lot of the other teams on the slate. That said, there's juice on the under at 3 in that match, and Palace and City have juice on the over 3.25. And again, City's the best defense in the league, so that's almost like saying City's going to get 4. So if you believe Vegas, which you always should, City stacks and catching as much City as you can is going to be the best route here. But if you look at XG, I think there's a chance that Liverpool actually does it big. And I mean, it could be fading City could actually have some equity here. Again, if you trust the XG, I mean, Chelsea at home has more XG, 2 and 4 than City on the road at Palace. So again, take that with a grain of salt, take from it what you will. All right, so let's get into the players. I spent a lot of time on that opening. So I think this build is going to be kind of the normal structure, trying to get a piece of every team here. You get all their set takers. Phil Foden up top, 10-5. Ben Chilwell at 7-7. Alexander-Arnold at 7-5. This way you can get exposure to all of them, and I think that's the right way to do it. Where you go from here is going to be a little different. I mean, you can do, no, you probably can't. I don't think you can get Mo Salah in here. Take Sanchez, and then utility, you have to punt. No, you can't. You cannot do this. So if that is your core, don't get excited about having Mo Salah. But all right. So that said, if you do that, I think you sacrifice Chilwell, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, like, you can make that work. And I'll probably do something like that at some point. Maybe just 1 GPP. So, okay, to the players. So Mo Salah at 12-3, you're kind of expecting 2 goals. You kind of need 2 goals at that price. We discussed stuff like that. Mahrez, I believe, started at the midweek, and he is not expected to play. Sadio Mane, great pivot off of Salah. And again, like, I think if you can get him, go for it. Let's try this really quick. How much salary do we get left with? Probably not doable. And I mean, really not terribly equitable. I'm just trying to see if the salary works out. No, not even close. Okay. So at that point, probably fading Foden. But okay. So Torres out, Lukaku out. Firmino at 8-4 is pretty pricey. He's been more involved. Going to be the lesser owned of the 3, I imagine, unless that salary relief makes certain builds work, like, one with Chilwell and Alexander-Arnold. So beware a little bit of that. Gabriel Jesus at 8-3 could be a cash play if you like that flair, if you like high-priced flair. He's playing wide and highest total, biggest favorite, et cetera. Probably going to be pretty high owned, but he's a fantastic choice. The Nathan Redmond fun is over, 7,900. James Ward-Prowse is back, so let's say Nick's Nathan Redmond. Great pivot, but need a goal. Kai Havertz is going to be up front for Chelsea at 7,800. Another one who, might be even popular in cash because of where he plays and the salary and how big of favorites they are. I think it's a fine choice. I think he's great. Ivan Toney, good spot for Brentford. Ivan Toney is Ivan Toney. Burnley has been bad. Go for it. If Jota starts instead of Firmino, you get even more salary relief. Great play. I read that Pulisic might actually be back. He's not slated to start, but I don't think he's necessarily out. Trained with Chelsea for the first time in more than a month. So, maybe that winds up being a feature, not a start. That'd be a tough thing to do. But keep your eye on Pulisic if you're into that sort of thing. Sterling started at the midweek. 7-3 is great, but probably won't start. Callum Hudson-Odoi should start with all of the Chelsea injury woes up front. Again, 7,100, probably a better spot than Havertz because he'll take sets, or at least some. He can get some. But with Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell on and Reece James probably on, then all of a sudden you're not looking at many sets, but still the salary relief and where he's playing is great. Sar, he's always been playing. He had a bad week last week. I would have had a really good week had he just done anything else, because I had Josh King and Livramento in the same lineup with Sar, and he just picked. If he had any amount of floor, I would have done much better. I didn't even need a goal out of him, but he's always in play. But a bit of a letdown last week. But Southampton not very good, so go for it. Bilba, if he plays 6,900, more involved for City this year than he has been up front. Like, he's not just dribbling around and opening up another 1-2. He's actually getting involved in the attack. Josh King went off last week. I would be surprised if he weren't a little bit more popular this week, but his price is up. If you want to go there, fine. Dwight McNeil at 6'6". He makes sense for cash. He hasn't been taking as many sets as Westwood, but like, it's not like this is a bad spot for Burnley. I don't know that I'll go there, but I wouldn't follow anyone for it. 6,600, that's fine. Callum Wilson, if you're not playing Mendy and want some big time leverage, fine. That's a fine play. But it's a lot of leverage. He's gonna be very low, so go for it. Chucho Hernandez, 6,400, took some sets for Watford last week, and he's in a better spot against Southampton. So again, perhaps for cash, you could play him. Pascal Gross at 6,300 is actually not bad, but it's Liverpool. I don't know how I feel about him. The joke is that he always gets there, and he does, but in this match, I think Brighton might be up against it. Cornet, brace last week? Brace or a hat trick? Either way, he's coming into his own. Probably the best play for Burnley. It's not on sets though, but he can get you goals. We know that. And Buemo against Burnley at 6,100. He was another letdown last week, but he's a great play in my eyes. You can play anyone against Burnley right now. They're not able to keep out goals as well as they have been. So, all right. So here's these Southampton strikers again. I'm going to skip over St. Max and Zaha again, but I mean, you have Armstrong, Adams, and Tella all 6,000 or less, and it's against Watford. So these are probably your best choices if you want to punt forward. And which ones are? I think Adams is definitely supposed to play. Yeah. So, I mean, whoever it is, but Adams is the guy that I'm watching at 5,700. You want cheap gold, and with this build, like, you might need a Shea Adams to make the other spots work, or at least get to where you want. So he's great. He's great here. Zaha, again, if you want extreme leverage, if he starts, and St. Maximin, kind of the same thing. Like, if you're not playing those keepers, feel free to play these guys. And not only, like, if you get a St. Maximin goal, that's probably a 22-point swing to a lot of other lineups, because they're going to be playing Ederson, and they're not going to be on St. Maximin, or sorry, Mendy, and they're not going to be on St. Maximin. That's only to the Mendy lineups, for what that's worth. Same as like for all the Ederson, I think maybe that's your bigger leverage play. It just depends on where the ownership shakes out. Because if there's more Ederson lineups, then you're getting more leverage over more people. Okay, Minamino he scored in the midweek in the cup. Benteke again, leverage, very cheap. Trossard actually gets some sets, 5,100, fine. Edward should start. Vidra against Brentford, 5,000. You're just looking, it just depends on how much salary relief you need. Same thing goes for all these Newcastle and Crystal Palace guys who might start up front. Same with Brighton and Maupay. Walcott at 4,500 continues to be an option. Hasn't scored yet, but again, option. Chris Wood still stinks. I've been touting him for weeks and weeks and weeks, and he hasn't done anything. Maybe this is the week. 4,300. I think that's the cheapest like salary to goal scoring odds you'll find here. Rodriguez, Connolly. I don't need to get into a lot of these guys. Barnes, if he starts, 3,700. Why not? You're just getting a lot of salary relief here, and not a ton really to go over. All right, to the midfield. Midfielders only. Mid only eligible, I should say. All right, so Kev against Palace, obviously he's an okay play. He's going to get very involved, but he'll only have a share of sets, probably with Foden taking the most. But De Bruyne does plenty. I'm never going to say not to play Kevin De Bruyne. Does make things a little hairy salary-wise. So with this build at least, but you might be able to find some cheap goals in there. Mason Mount should play. Did he have a hat trick last week? I feel like he did. Yeah, that 7-0 game. 9-5 a lot. Won't have all the stats, but you can play him. That's fine. Ward Prowse at 9,100 is a lot, but he does well. I don't know. Against Watford, I would like to play him, but that price is just a little steep. Jack Grealish is going to be the least owned of the City guys. Plenty of leverage here. You get your floors out of him. He's going to get his fouls drawn 3-3, 2-2, 3-5. Take shots, puts shots on goal. Hasn't been converting a ton of them, but he scored against Norwich. But he's going to get you gotten 10 plus points in all of his starts. So not against Liverpool. Take it back. Didn't do anything against Liverpool. But this ain't Liverpool. It's Crystal Palace. So, Grealish is going to give you plenty of leverage. So I'd like him as a play here. I can't do that. Okay. All right, more mids only. Gundogan, 7,700. Is he supposed to start? No, but he could. I had to stop a sneeze there. I didn't want to sneeze in y'all's ears. Ooh, okay. That burn a little. Ooh, yeah. Kim Ziyech, if he plays 7,400, he's been bad, but I would prefer Ross Barkley at 6,700. I can't believe I'm saying that. I would prefer Barkley start, but I don't know that either of them will. Elyounoussi, I don't think is supposed to start. If he does, fine. Not a ton of leverage, but you get scoring odds. Not leverage against anything other than the ownership of the player himself. Westwood, 5,900. Cash play. I don't think he's did too much for you in GPP, but he's been fine from a floor perspective. Loftus-Cheek, if he plays, same sort of thing. Curtis Jones, 5,600. That's some easy exposure to Liverpool. I think he gets a little more forward than whoever will be on the other side at that position. So basically, what you see happen. Hendo. So basically, what you see happen here is you get the wingbacks, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. They're going to make runs past these two midfielders, the side midfielders, and then Jones and Henderson will drop deep, which allows Salah to get into those spaces and Mane get into those spaces. But I think more often than not, you get Mane running forward and kind of staying on the edges to make, get in behind, while Jones will kind of fill that spot and push up. Whereas Henderson, I think, drops and looks for long balls, to break lines and stuff like that. They do like Salah to drop into some of that space and get on the ball because he can make things happen, either running in behind or with the ball at his feet. So I don't mind Curtis Jones here. I don't, not prioritizing him, but that's kind of what you see out of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got on the score sheet. More mid only. Kovacic, fine. He gets more involved. He comes up with a goal every now and then. 55 is fine. Jensen at 54 sets. Cheap. Gives you salary relief relative to Westwood. So that's fine. Stuart Armstrong, whatever. Conor Gallagher, again with City. Jorginho, 4,900. You will get penalties because Lukaku's out. He was very popular in the Champions League slate recently, but 4,900 isn't, 38 or whatever he was at that point. So you can play him, but I don't know that I'd want to gamble that much for a penalty. It's also Newcastle, so trying to give them up. Naby has been good for them and been making runs forward, so if he plays, sure. Henderson, same sort of thing. Again, I don't think he's going to get forward, but he comes up with a goal every now and then. Exposure to Liverpool. He's got some assist equity, et cetera, et cetera. Joe Willock, extreme leverage. Olise should start if you want a really cheap leverage play against City. Olise should start and be up front, so go for it. If there was anyone I'm going to play against City as a leverage play, I'm going to take the cheapest guy and get some floor elsewhere. So, yeah, Olise at 42, and then I'll just go to utility and get Reece James or something like that. And all of a sudden you have big floor with the Chelsea wingbacks. You can even play City. Like, you don't have to fade City completely just because you're playing Palace. You just have to fade Ederson, et cetera, et cetera. All right, Ryan Frazier, I believe, started last week and pulled a little bit from Matt Ritchie, his floor at least. None of these other guys are really worth mentioning. Rodri at 38. Again, if he starts, I keep having to look because I keep forgetting like who's going to actually, yeah. Rodri at 38 is perfectly fine. I have no qualms about playing Rodri. So if he starts, it's been bad, but go ahead. Genepo at 36, man, like on the edge. It's gonna get something eventually, but here's one. Solly March, 3,400. Probably gonna take most of their sets. It's against Liverpool, but it's 3,400. Like, obviously, as you've seen with me playing with some of these builds, you're gonna need some salary relief and get some salary relief. 3,400. Sorry. As far as mid only is, like, he's the best. I wouldn't, unless I needed the cash, like unless I needed 3,000 relative or versus like 3,400. I don't think I would come down here. I would just play Solly March if he starts. All right, defenders, same sort of thing as always. I already have the two most expensive in here. If I could do this, I'd love to. And I mean, it's 6,700. You know, like, that's, what are you paying 6,700 for at mid? Ross Barkley, Bernardo Silva, Pascal Gross, Chucho. You know, like, Reece James is a lot better than that. What about a forward? McNeil. Yeah, see, like, no one in here that I would prefer to pay 6,700 for other than Reece James. So I think that's very viable. I will probably go that route in cash. Cancelo is an option. Robertson at 56, if it gets you somewhere, like, could be a better option. Again, like, I'm talking about stacking Liverpool. So Robertson here instead of Reece James, it gets you $1,100 of salary relief. So feel free to go that way as well. I'm not going to be on Richie, even though, you know, there's a chance he just crosses even more because they're down. But I'm not going to be getting there. Azpilicueta only if he's on the wing. Livramento is good. Again, basically, the way that I see this is you're probably paying up here. If you're paying down, you're going to go to Robertson, and that's not really paying down, but like, find the 700 for Robertson instead of playing Livramento. Find the 1,000 is not that easy, but, you know, like, Sergio Canos versus Andrew Robertson, from a floor perspective, like, I don't know, Canos's ceiling is not that much higher than Robertson's floor. I say that, but maybe it goes off against Burnley. Not a ton else in this range, so I think let's find some cheap. So Danny Rose at 3,900. Zinchenko if he starts. I like Van Dijk here for assist equity. Anyone else down here that stands out? Rico Henry at 36. Yeah, and then you just get into Joel Veltman at 33. I believe isn't one of the City guys is like, yeah, like what are we doing here? John Stones is 2,500. Not supposed to start. So all right, so Stones is there. DS is 33. Laporte's 29. Like, yeah, so basically pay up or pay all the way down, like 50% chance of a clean sheet here, and you're gonna just pass back and forth. Like, I think you just either go all the way up or you go all the way down. I don't think there's any need really to go to a Livramento or a Canos. Like, just do this, or I mean, even if you play those two and play Laporte, like it gives you so much more salary. So yeah, like don't even waste your time with those in the middle guys here. Keeper, really quick. You know, I love to talk keeper. So Allison is more expensive than Ederson, which is actually kind of surprising. I think that's going to make Ederson even more popular. And then Mendy only $100 down from there. So yeah, I think Ederson winds up being the most popular pay up option. So there's like, if you're going to leverage anything, leverage Palace in my eyes. McCarthy, if you're going to pay up further, not going to be owned. McCarthy's not going to be owned. Pope probably not going to be owned. I believe Fernandez is supposed to start, but yeah, like there are three 3,700 or below keepers here. So like find the one you think is most likely to give up a bunch of shots on goal and maybe save some of them. So I mean, Liverpool, something that XG mark that I talked about at the beginning, something that marks is that they take a lot of shots. So maybe Sanchez is the way to go. If you're not stacking Liverpool, like maybe that's the way to go. I think he's the worst actual goalkeeper out of, you know, if it's Dubravka, I think it would be a little different than Darlow. Sanchez and Darlow might be on the same footing, but I think Dubravka is better. And then Gaeta, I think, is better than Sanchez and Darlow, but not Dubravka. So in terms of quality of keeper, I think it's Dubravka, Gaeta, Darlow, and Sanchez. And then you probably don't have to worry about it otherwise. Wow, Jack Butland. That's a name I haven't seen in forever. So yeah, I'm more likely to pay down here. Although paying up for Ben Foster is not a bad idea if you have the money. Like if it's a last man in thing, which your keeper generally should be. If you can get up to Foster, then go for it. So all right, that's my thoughts on that slate. I like the Liverpool stack. I think it's gonna be less owned, and but you have to concede a lot for it. So lineups over players, you know, like don't just go for the Liverpool stack because you think it's going to be different. Make sure it works. Make sure you have enough floor in that lineup and can get somewhere if it doesn't go off. And like make sure you can still get there if, you know, it's a low scoring slate, but Liverpool gets 2 goals and you catch them. So City or Liverpool, and then Chelsea, like you can just play their back line. You can just play James and Chilwell and Mendy and feel fine about them because everybody scores for them. It could be the guys that you have. Chilwell can't stop scoring. So sorry as I yawn here. I haven't had my coffee. I think that's your big choice. But maybe me saying that, maybe stack Chelsea. I don't know. That's not what I would do. But Liverpool or City, pick one. And if you pick City, like Grealish is going to be less owned. Get different somewhere else because that's going to be more owned, that build. So, all right. Leave a comment. Tell me where I went wrong. Tell me what you like. And reach out to me on Twitter @LexSuper. I will talk to you this Sunday for Tilt City. And until then, see you.